We have a very interesting Gemara, a very interesting pasuk. The pasuk tells us in this week's parasha, "Ve'itaber Hashem bi lema'anchem." Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people, he says, Hashem got angry at me, "Ve'itaber Hashem bi lema'anchem," for your sake. And the question is, what is Moshe saying? We saw many times, the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu was unable to get into the land of Israel, right? Even though he prays, even though he does all the teshuvah in the world, the reason why he can't get into the land of Israel is why? Pasuk says it explicitly. Ya'an, because lo he'emante bi lakdisheni. Because you did not believe in me to sanctify me. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do wrong? Hazi. The only thing he did wrong. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? He hit the rock instead of speaking to it. So the question is, why is Moshe, after doing something that the Torah says is the reason why he didn't get into Eretz Israel, why does Moshe blame the Jewish people? It's not lema'anchem. It's your own fault. You should take responsibility, Moshe Rabbeinu, for what you've done. The answer, my friends, is very interesting. Because if you take a look at the Pesukim, you'll see that Moshe Rabbeinu, after saying this, he ends off with one sentence. Vaneshev bagai mul bet peor. And we camped in the valley opposite Bet Peor. And the question is, why is that such an important statement from Moshe Rabbeinu? Vaneshev bagai mul Bet Peor has to tell us at this point in the narrative where they were camping. Why is that important? It goes on to say, Ve'ata Yisrael, listen, O Am Yisrael, you have to listen to God's laws. Hashem will accept your teshuvah. Rashi says that when Moshe says, Ve'ata Yisrael, Shema, listen el hachukim, listen to God's commandments. What God was saying is, what Moshe was saying is that Hashem is telling you that even if you did anything wrong, whatever you did, even if it was the worst thing ever, still, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if a person listens to the mitzvot, corrects their ways, God accepts their teshuvah. But God, Moshe is expressing, did not accept my teshuvah. Moshe did something so small by hitting the rock instead of speaking to it, and yet, when it came down to Moshe's teshuvah, God did not accept it. And the question is, why did God not accept Moshe's teshuvah? We know that teshuvah is so powerful that no matter what a person's done, God allows the teshuvah to turn it around. We have certain things that Rambam lists. It is lists of things that a person can't do teshuvah for. I'll give you one example. Rambam writes, halakha posek, halakha l'ma'aseh, so to speak. If a person says, I'm going to do this sin, and then I'm going to do teshuvah, is this teshuvah accepted, yes or no? No. Now, it's clear from Rambam that no matter what you say that about, the idea holds true. So in other words, let's say I say, I'm going to eat non-kosher, and then I'm going to do teshuvah. Doesn't work. Rabbi is correcting me that it should be echeta, not echete. Okay, thank you. So I didn't say it in order to do teshuvah, so I can still do teshuvah on that, Rabbi.
Absolutely.
So the question is, whatever it is that you're going to do, if you have that in mind, then I'm going to do the sin, and then after I do the sin, I'm going to do teshuvah, then the teshuvah doesn't work. My rabbi explained that the reason why the teshuvah doesn't work, even though the sin might be a small sin, why would teshuvah not work for it? It's not one of the other ones that Rambam lists as mitzvot or as averot that a person doesn't have teshuvah for. So he explains, because the purpose of teshuvah is Hashivenu Hashem Elecha Lenashuvah. The purpose of teshuvah is to drive a person closer to God. When a person thinks in their mind, I'm going to do a sin and then do teshuvah, the teshuvah itself is a cause for them to sin. Because what they're saying is, let me sin and then I'll do teshuvah. So the teshuvah acts as a reason why you're going to get further from God. So therefore God precludes a person from doing teshuvah when they have that mindset, because then the teshuvah helps you sin. And why would God give you something to help you sin? To let you go further from Him. Be that as it may, everything else except if it's in the list of Rambam, where he lists certain averot that you can't do teshuvah for. Everything else is counted as Vadai Hashem accepts your teshuvah. So why would God not accept Moshe's teshuvah? And the answer perhaps is now that we understand what Moshe Rabbeinu was telling the Jewish people. Vayitaber Hashem bi lema'anchem, for your sake. The Chachamim explain that if someone like Moshe Rabbeinu, who was closest to God, who was so humble, he was such a Navi, when he did a sin, there was literally a price to pay. If Moshe did a sin, however small it was, however infinitesimal it was, however much we don't understand it, but if Moshe Rabbeinu could have a yesh din v'yesh dayan, there's a judgment and there's a judge, then all of us learn that we have to stay in line as well. So the fact that God did not accept Moshe's teshuvah, why was it? Lema'anchem. For us to realize, for us to say to ourselves, no matter what we're going through, that we always have to do the right thing, and there's no excuses. How many excuses could Moshe have thought of? But none of them matter. Why? Yesh din, the yesh dayan. Moshe says, if not for the fact that you needed to learn that lesson, Hashem actually, even if the sin was mine, but Hashem could accept it in my teshuvah, and I would have been able to go into the land of Israel. Sometimes, when God judges a person, or God judges a tzaddik, or God judges a generation, the reason why He has to judge them is not for themselves. It might be for somebody else. You ever have a situation with your children where your kid says, listen, let me get away with it, what's the big deal? What do you tell your kid? If I let you do it, then I have to let the other kids do it. And I know that if you do it, if you stay up late, you'll still get up in the morning. I know that if you eat this, you're still gonna be healthy. But if I let you do it, then I have to let the other kids do it. That's Vayitaber Hashem bi. Okay. My friends, let me end with one idea. Made him an example. Let me end with one idea. The Zohar gives an alternate expression, an explanation of Vaneshiv Bagai Mul Bet Peor. When the Jewish people were in that place, in that area, what sin had the Jewish people committed? We know that that was the place, the sin of Baal Peor, where the Jewish people had sinned with this idol called Baal Peor. And the Zohar says that every year, on the anniversary of the sin that the Jewish people did in that place, like the Pasuk says, they were attached to it. They were dancing by it. They were enjoying it. They were eating. They were drinking. They were reveling in Avodah Zarah. So every year on the anniversary, on the Yortzat Yani, on the Azkara, of that great sin, the Malach rises from that place to bring judgment in front of God on the Jewish people. And from that place, where the Malach comes to judge the Jews, to come to punish us for that sin, Moshe Rabbeinu, who's buried also Bagai, Mul Bet Peor, opposite Bet Peor, Moshe's Neshama also rises, combats, so to speak, fights the Malach that's bringing that negative news to Hashem, and he conquers every year the din against the Jewish people. That's what the Zohar says. So effectively, Moshe not going into Israel, what's the purpose of that? Says the Zohar, so that he will be in the place of Bet Peor, so that when the Malach comes with the din, Moshe can stand up against him. Let me give you one more idea, and then I'll tie these two concepts together to end. There's one last piece over here. The Midrash gives an example of a fellow who gets off a bus. Excuse me, Dubna Magi. A fellow gets off the bus. As he gets off the bus, Hazik, he's a poor guy, he drops a couple quarters, a couple nickels that he collected in the Knis Tzedakah. Anyway, it's the middle of the night, it's pitch black, you can't see anything. He wants the bus driver to wait 2 minutes before he leaves so he can pick up the coins. Because the second the bus driver leaves, he's not going to be able to see anything. But he knows if he tells the bus driver that he dropped a couple nickels, a couple quarters, the bus driver's going to leave. So quickly, he drops out of his pocket, he pulls a $20 bill, he throws it on the floor, and he tells the bus driver, he says, Dachilak, I just dropped $20. Could you wait 1 minute before you drive off so I can see in the dark? The guy says, sure. He leaves the 20 on the floor, picks up all the coins, and then takes the 20. Chazak Baruch, thank you very much. Says the Dubna Magid, Am Yisrael, an entire generation dies in the desert. And when the time of Techiyat HaMetim comes, many of them, whether they sinned or they didn't have enough zechuyot, they would not have had the zechut to have been brought back in the time of Mashiach to Eretz Yisrael for Techiyat HaMetim. So when the bus driver won't come for a quarter or a nickel, but if there's a 20 there, he'll wait for the lights. When Moshe was buried in the Midbar, already the bus driver needs to keep the lights on. Ya'ani Motel 6, we'll keep the lights on for you. If Hashem has to come for Moshe Rabbeinu, then all those neshamot will also come back with Moshe Rabbeinu as well at Techiyat HaMetim. So listen now to what Moshe is saying with different ears. Moshe says, please let me cross in. And the Midrash says that God said to Moshe, what do you want? Eberana or Selachna? It seems like you don't know what you want, Moshe. I ata yodea ma ata rotze, ata ochez hachevel b'shnei harashim. You're holding the rope from both ends. What do you want? Do you want to go in first? Do you want to go into the land of Israel? Eberana or Selachna? Do you want me to hold your prayer to forgive the people? What was God saying? When you said Selachna to me, when the Jews sinned, what did you do? You said, you lie down in front of the car. You said, if you have to drive over them, you're going to drive over me. Who'd you put first, yourself or the Jews? The Jews. You took the short end of the stick for yourself so that Am Yisrael will be saved. When it comes to Eber Ana Moshe Rabbeinu, what do you want? I'll let you go into Israel. But if you go into Israel, what will happen to all these neshamot? So what do you want? Are you choosing yourself or are you choosing them? And the Midrash ends with the words of Rabbi Yohanan, very powerful. Moshe Rabbeinu says, if that's the case, Yamut Moshe ume'akim oto. Moshe should die and 100 like him. Not one of them should even have a broken fingernail. Now we look at Moshe Rabbeinu's words. Moshe made a sin, whatever on his level, for sure. But God accepts teshuvah for everything. Moshe's prayers were unceasing, they were unyielding. 515 tefillot. How much teshuvah do you want already? The answer is, if it was just for Moshe, Hashem would have accepted his teshuvah. He would have already been in the land of Israel. But because of you, for your neshamot, because of you, for you to learn the lesson of Yesh Din v'Yesh Dayan, because of you, for your sakes, for me to stand up against the prosecuting angel of Baal Peor, I had to stay here. My friends, but now we see the full picture. Moshe Rabbeinu, we always think to ourselves, how could it be that Moshe Rabbeinu failed in his mission? God said to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to put you over here, you're going to go into Egypt, you're going to take the Jewish people out, you're going to do all these miracles, you're going to take them through, you're going to get the Torah, and you're going to bring them to the land of Israel. But Moshe doesn't bring them to the land of Israel. How can it be that Moshe takes them, wanders the whole desert, there's not a single grain of sand that they haven't visited at least once, and Moshe doesn't get to take the people in? And the answer is, he does, just not yet. And when the time of Mashiach comes, Moshe Rabbeinu will lead that entire generation into the land of Israel. What a sight that will be. If only I'll be zocher to get up earlier in Techiyat HaMetim, to be able to see, to stand there with my camera and to video Moshe Rabbeinu rising, taking the nishamot of Am Yisrael that were promised to enter the Holy Land, the Promised Land, and to see that promise come true. B'meira b'yameinu. Amen. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashya